The 7 trumpets in Revelation. In this video, we'll talk about the Fifth Trumpet of Revelation. Thanks to the technology, we can also find out at what exact time the incident came to a full conclusion. What you see here is an article from Boston Globe dating Saturday on September 18th, 2010, with a headline, "Blowout BP Well Finally Killed at Bottom of Gulf." In the footnote section, beneath where the picture is supposed to be showing, it says, "The Development Driller 3, which drilled the relief well and pumped the cement to seal the Macondo well, the source of the Deepwater Horizon rig explosion and oil spill, is seen in the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Louisiana. Saturday, September 18, 2010, on the day the cementing was completed." AP photo, Gerald Herbert. So, the article specifically tells us that the sealing of the well was completed no later than on Saturday, September 18, 2010. And the main text of the article further writes, "The federal government's point man on the disaster said Sunday, BP's well is effectively dead and posed no further threat to the Gulf. He said a pressure test to ensure the cement plug would hold was completed at 5:54 a.m. Central Daylight Time." Bear in mind that when God created the light in the very first day, God called the light day and the darkness night. And as it writes in Genesis 1:5, the evening and the morning were the first day. So this is why the biblical calendar day starts with the sunset and ends with the sunset, which occurs in the evening around 6 p.m. Jerusalem time. With that biblical definition of calendar day in mind, what can we conclude? The dispersants were applied later than 1 p.m. on April 22nd. By this time in Israel, which has 7-hour difference from Central Daylight Time in USA with daylight saving, it is already passed into a new day because it is already hours past 6 p.m. in Jerusalem. In this case, the Gregorian equivalence will be April 23rd of 2010. Complete sealing of the well is officially tested and confirmed at 5:54 a.m. on September 19th. Even with 7-hour time difference, it is still within the same day in Israel, which makes it the Gregorian equivalent date of September 19th. With these dates, from April 23rd to September 19th, when the officially declared sealed, we have for ourselves the exact count of 150 days in all, which is exactly 5 months in accordance with the biblical calculation of day and time. I must say, this fits the description in the Bible perfectly. Now, let's cover some facts about the core exit. The fact finding on the web reveals that the core exit makes crude oil 11 times more lethal by sinking 95% of the spilled Gulf oil to bottom and below the water surface. The core exit is stored at military bases and calls for military operation. And the use of core exit caused sudden surge in Gulf cancers, causing people to bleed from orifices and causing internal bleeding in sea life, such as dolphins and turtles, eventually leaving 40 million people poisoned. Core exit is said to be a cruel, slow-kill genocidal depopulation Agenda 21 tool aimed at people, their water supply, food, and land. And other sources also claim that core exit becomes more toxic as it gets more diluted. People wondered why biodegradable, non-toxic, even edible dispersants were not used instead of the poisonous core exit. Until July 15th, 1.84 million gallons of core exit dispersants was said to be applied aerially on the surface of the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. This figure excludes subsea application. There was a day on May 23rd that BP sprayed 70,000 gallons of core exit, suggesting a significant abuse of this chemical and a serious environmental consequence to follow. No wonder Revelation writes in 11:18, "And thy wrath came, and a time, to destroy those who destroy the earth." Spraying core exit brought undeniable health consequences to the South State residents. According to Alabama Department of Public Health authorities, over 97,000 patients were treated for non-trauma cases alone since May 14th until September 24th. Who then is responsible for enacting the organized historical environmental disaster? We know that there were aircrafts used. We know there were many helicopters from many different entities and resources were involved. We know there were many ships that were involved with the cleanup. Fishing boats of small and large size were utilized, and cargo-carrying tankers loaded with core acid were also on active duty. But we cannot deny that there was a mobilization of military forces to aid the operation on ground and in air. There are accounts of various types of military vehicles that were in action, aside from the FBI and other local police forces. According to the BP and government documents, the U.S. Coast Guard seems to have been given more authority than usual, as Coast Guard was in a position to approve or disapprove the spraying of core acid dispersant by BP. So, in reality, the authority and the duty of the U.S. Coast Guard seems to have extended beyond simple monitoring and regulating the airspace to assessing the environment, approve the core acid dispersant uses, and even spraying the core acid themselves. Here in this video clip from Navy Visual News, we can see the U.S. Coast Guards working in partnership with BP PLC, local residents, and other federal agencies to prevent the spread of oil at the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Dated on May 10, 2010, the aircraft on flight was C-130 from Marine Spill Response Corporation. Here is another video clip showing the U.S. Air Force pilots directly involved with spraying of the core acid dispersant over the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Many sources indicate that the Deepwater Horizon incident was more than just the environmental accident and the cleanup. In the U.S. Force's official website published on June 1, 2010, it states that the military involvement in BP Deepwater Horizon was more than just an ethical response to the environmental disaster, but an issue related to the Homeland Defense ORI, which stands for Operational Response Inspection. It goes on to say, for the very first time, the U.S. Air Force has validated a unit's wartime capability to defend the homeland by fighting an enemy right here on U.S. soil. Unlike traditional ORIs, in this one, the participants were tasked with supporting civil authorities while fighting an unconventional foe in the United States. All three organizations worked seamlessly to launch theater airlift and medical evacuation sorties across the Gulf Coast region, supporting U.S. Northern Command missions and civil authorities, while foiling multiple attacks by well-organized terrorists. Americans rest on our now tested ability to immediately respond and perform mass casualty medical evacuations after a chemical attack. Continuing on from the official website of the U.S. Air Force, here we have an evidence of the U.S. Army involved with the oil spill response. Here we have the photo from LA Times showing the Army man soldiers involved with the post-oil spill cleanup activities. And even the Black Hawk military helicopters reveal the Army's involvement with the transporting of the white sandbags. Now, if BP Deepwater Horizon incident is the fifth trumpet, all the facts presented so far must agree with the description in Revelation. So as in Revelation 9:2, there was an opening of the bottomless pit. Much smoke arose from the pit like the smoke of the great furnace, and from this smoke the sun and the air were darkened. As we reviewed before, tens of millions of gallons of oil slick were set on fire as a part of the cleanup operation. The burning did not take place only at the original oil well site, but at the multiple sites wherever the oil spread and drifted to, and the smoke even reached the shorelines, and the residents there became sick from breathing in the plume, leaving unpleasant black smoke such as these in the photos. Many local residents complained about smelling the burning gas. If BP Deepwater Horizon is indeed the fifth trumpet, then the locusts will appear near the presence of the smoke, and the locusts will have the power like the scorpions to torment people for 5 months. The nature of the torment would put people into great discomfort, but will not cause them to die. 5 months of dispersion spraying operation compromised the health of many Gulf residents, putting them to severe illnesses and suffering. The symptoms include those found in the scorpion stings, and although the core acid spraying has stopped in 2010, its aftermath as the multi-symptom syndrome continues onward even to this date. So, in this BP Deepwater Horizon incident, we must ask ourselves, are there locusts as described in Revelation 9? I think yes. We can easily identify the shapes of locusts resembling the horses prepared onto battle because the heavy military involvement of all aircrafts, helicopters, ships, and vehicles are metallic in nature, so they all in a way have the breastplates of iron. Moreover, their combustive engines and propellers would make a sound of the horses running to battle. The 4 of the tricky parts to interpret are 1. Having the crowns like gold, 2. Having the faces of men, 3. Having the hair like of women, and 4. Having the teeth like of lions. While there can exist multiple alternative views in interpreting each element, let me present to you first what I believe to be the most probable interpretation. In the phrase crowns like gold, the scripture has emphasis on the crowns for having something on the head. NIV version translates this phrase something like crowns of gold. All cleanup workers and military personnel of all units had some headgears for their efficient communication, safety, and identification. Like in the picture, the Air Force men had a military cap on, as well as the men from the National Guard. Pilots who were directly involved with the spraying of the core acid dispersant also had headphone-like headgears on. As we have already seen in the video clips from early on, the simple headphone-type headgears and the helmet-type headgear seem to be the standard headgears for the pilots flying the C-130 aircraft models. And when the pilots are fully dressed in their uniforms, such as in the picture, John would have had difficulty describing the appearance. Which is why I think John described it as, and their faces were as the faces of men. From John's perspective, the countenance was very uncommon for his time. Or it is also possible that John is hinting to us that the locust actions are still operated by computer-assisted humans simply because the full drone age has not launched yet. And we have the hair of women. To John, the protruded earmuffs part of the headgear would look as if they were the knotted hair bun of chignon hairstyle. As for the teeth of lions, the main characteristic of lion teeth is the cuspids. The sharp and longest canine teeth extend from the ear along the zygomatic arch and protrude out to the front side of the mouth. Therefore, the mic portion of the headgear can be seen as the teeth like that of the lions. So, we have all the features enlisted in the description explained. We have the crowns like gold, the faces of men, the hair of women, and the teeth of lions. But of course, the alternative interpretation can also exist.